We're live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 27th, 2023 meeting of the Student Life and Athletics Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees. The meeting is being held in person with some committee members participating remotely. At this time, I will conduct a roll call attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond, present via WebEx or present in person when your name is called. Tom Ryan, Jay Placencia, present via WebEx. Robbie Luna, Armin Sabatoni,
Present via WebEx.
Robert Wagand,
Via WebEx.
Reva Goyal,
Present via WebEx.
and Mark Parlange.
Present in person.
Perfect. A quorum is present, and now I call the meeting to order. Reminder to all members, for the benefit of our audience and the note taker, please clearly identify yourself whenever you comment, make a motion, or a second to a motion. Participants using WebEx are required to keep their cameras on as remote members, and all persons present at the meeting location must be clearly audible and visible to each other. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that the University of Rhode Island occupies the traditional homeland of the Narragansett Nation and the Niantic people. I'd like to welcome the newest member of our URI Board of Trustees and this committee, Bob Wagand, and the student representative, Reva Goyam. You guys are going to have a blast with us. Thank the outgoing trustees, David Monorano, for his service to the board and the committee. The first order of business is approval of the minutes. I hope everyone had a chance to review these. And may I have a motion that the Student Life and Athletics Committee approve the minutes of its April 6th, 2023.
This is Armin, so moved.
Perfect. Thank you, Armin. Is there a second to the motion?
I think it's you and me, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bob.
Yeah.
Oh,
he
Bob.
can't-
You
Oh,
know,
okay.
Yeah, wasn't here the
Can't
last
focus, he
meeting.
wasn't at the last meeting.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. So we're able to, I guess I'll second. Is that all in favor? Aye. Any abstained? Okay, so the motion passes. Is that okay, Alyssa?
If Bob is abstaining because he wasn't there, he should just say he's abstaining for the record.
All right, just want to make sure that we're able to get them approved. All right, perfect. The next item on the agenda are discussion items. And we will have a bit of more commentary today. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Ellen and from Thor and the students. So let's see, why don't we, I'll just pass the agenda over to Thor.
Great. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here with you all. And I'm joined by three student athletes who I'd love to have introduce themselves, who are going to take part in this presentation with me. One thing I would ask as we go through the slides, we're not going to go through every piece of every slide. So if there are questions, please stop us as we're going along and we can answer questions, or certainly at the end. And our student athletes are certainly very excited and enthusiastic about answering any questions you may have about them personally, their experiences, et cetera, at the end of the presentation. But with that, I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves. Trinity, could you start?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Trinity Smith. I just finished my last year of eligibility on the track and field team. I graduated in 2022, receiving my BS in kinesiology. I'm currently achieving my master's in physical education and health, and I just finished my first year of the graduate MATCP program here at URI.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kaneek Bonner Stewart. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I just recently graduated this past May with an HDF major. And I'm on the football team. I play quarterback here at the University of Rhode Island. I have a few years of eligibility left, so I'm going to continue and get my MBA and the master's program. And one day I hope to be an athletic director. Yeah.
Watch out, Thor.
I love it.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Steven Sorella. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Psychology in 2020, along with a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. 2022, I received my Master's in Psychology, and this past year I received my Master's in Kinesiology, and I'm currently working towards a PhD in Health Sciences. Like Trinity, I was on the track and field team here, and I hope to one day become a clinical sports psychologist.
Great. And with that, we'll just go right into the presentation. So first slide.
So to start off, this is a quick department snapshot of URI. URI is a Division I program. We have 19 intercollegiate sports, just adding lacrosse to our sports. 18 of them are within the A10, and football is part of the CAA, which is the Colonial Athletics Association. We have 15 head coaches, over 100 plus employees, and pretty much these are all the different departments within the university. Next slide, please.
So here on this slide, we have student athletes by the numbers. If you look here, you have 351 student athletes that receive athletic aid. The total number of student athletes is 425, and the percentage of student athletes on the dean's list is 45%. Next slide, please.
So this chart represents the scholarship allocation for each of our teams within the athletic department. The blue emphasizes the NCAA maximum scholarship allocation per sport, whereas the white bar represents the URI scholarship allocation. It is important to note that scholarships provide opportunities to athletes along with access to facilities for their experience as a collegiate student athlete. In one such example for football, as you can see, 63 under the blue bar chart represents the NCAA maximum scholarship allocation to that specific sport. And here at URI, we have 58 scholarships allocated, and 48 of them represent out-of-state student athletes, and 10 are represented within state. Also important to note that a majority of our sports do meet the NCAA maximum amount of scholarships, with exception to women's swimming and diving, and men's track and baseball. Next slide, please.
To continue on, these three graphs show scholarship allocation, the cumulative GPA of our student athletes, and them on the dean's list. To start off with the scholarship allocation, there are three types of student athletes that attend that are either on full scholarship or partial scholarship or walk-on status. Important to note that the walk-ons and partial are either paying all of their way or part of their way. In regards to the cumulative GPA, all of our student athletes average a 3.24 GPA average, and 45% of them are on dean's list. If you look at the chart, you may notice that there's a drop in the dean's list from the year of 21 to the year of 2022, and that's because of the grade inflation of COVID. However, all of our student athletes were still able to maintain a great GPA.
Next slide, please.
Okay. So here we have the graduation success rate and Atlantic 10 comparisons. If you look here on the chart where URI is located, URI is above the required 90 percentile rating, and then we're approaching the 92 percentile. The success rate measurement is calculated over 6 years by the NCAA. This is when a student athlete graduated at the University of Rhode Island or transferred and graduated from a different university. This is very important because it can affect our APR, which impacts our academic enhancement fund. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, what is an APR?
APR is academic progress rate. So basically what happens is every student athlete has a measurement. So when they're here, for every semester, they can actually earn up to 4 points. Excuse me, every semester they can earn 2, for the year up to 4. And so what you do is you take the percentage of total points available and total points earned. And there's 2 very important measurements within the NCAA calculation for academic success. One is to have a 985 APR rating, so 98.5% of the maximum amount of points. And the other is, as Kanique said, the graduate success rate of being over 90. Both of those can in turn lead to some academic enhancement money that comes in through the Atlantic 10. This case, it's almost this year is almost about $125,000 that we can get if we meet one or both of those measurements. We then can take those dollars and reinvest them in our academic support areas. So it's really significant. And you know, you miss it by 1 year, all of a sudden that's a financial impact for that year. So, you know, we really monitor this. I'll tell you, we have an amazing Associate AD for compliance and staff that are relatively new to us. they're really on this, working very closly with enrollment services to make sure that we're meeting those metrics. So one of the other things that I think is kind of interesting with this graduate success rate chart is because the A10 is made up of a lot of different types of schools. A lot of these, even though we list them as Team A, Team B, Team C, you can see where URI sits. We're made up of state and private schools. Some of the privates have higher numbers, but it looks significantly higher than probably it is just based on the way the chart's set up. But the fact that we're at 90, almost 92% is pretty significant. So very, very thrilled about that. That's a really good metric for us. We're really happy about that. We haven't always met it. And so that's really important.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
So as you can see in the slide in front of you, this is the student athlete majors that encompass all of the student athletes here at the University of Rhode Island. We had 87 total majors with across all of these student athletes in 2022, 2023. Just from the introductions of the student athletes and former student athletes here present with you, you can see that we are very diverse and have passions that lie in many different areas and fields of study. One major point of emphasis is that at the University of Rhode Island, within our athletics department, we do not restrict majors here at the university as some other athletic programs do. One such example would be the practical for nursing majors, which can be very demanding on the schedule. But at URI, individuals are allowed to pursue their passions, which they want to focus on and garner. So we really emphasize the student athlete within our program.
Can't emphasize that enough. That's really, really important because there are a lot of Division I athletic programs that will not allow students to be engineers, not allow them to be nurses, which is really just a real shame. And so again, this is a real point of pride. Our coaches, when they're hired, know that when they come here. We'll adjust practice time. We'll allow students to miss practice if required so they can reach up, go to a lab, etc. But we will never restrict a major here. If you can get in and you can be a pharmacy major, nursing major, kines major, psych major, whatever it is, you will have that opportunity.
And even graduate school
And
as well. I
graduate
just
school
wanted
as
to note that as
Thank
well.
you, Steve. Absolutely.
That's actually phenomenal. I didn't realize that that was a restriction in other places.
It is.
It really is. That's okay, right? So this next slide is actually it's really important, and it's something that I'm going to continue to report on to the subcommittee moving forward. Back in January, the Division I Board of Directors for the NCAA passed a holistic student athlete benefit model, and it's really focusing on a lot of different areas around student athlete welfare, student athlete experience, etc. And this was really pushed heavily by the Power 5 programs, and there's significant costs associated with them. So we're still working our way through it. We're spending a lot of time working within the Atlantic 10 conference just to see what some of the requirements are. But some of the things, for example, that are going to be in play now, providing medical coverage for athletic related injuries for at least 2 years after graduation. To provide opportunity for student athletes to receive their degrees within 10 years of academic eligibility expiring. Now, where that first thought for me was, wow, that could be really expensive. But then if you remember what we talked about in terms of our graduate success rates, a lot of our students are graduating on time, within 4 and a half to 5 years. So it's a smaller number. But again, the idea is to make sure that institutions are doing the right thing to try to provide student athletes with the opportunity over that 10-year period to earn their degree if they've decided to leave to go pro or any other factor came into play. So we're working through the nuances of that, but with this slide, we'll go through a lot of those different categories. And like I said, there is significant financial impact, potentially. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but this is one of those topics that I really do need to make sure I'm keeping the board in the loop on, and the president for sure, as we work our way through this.
So the university has conducted a strategic plan that includes athletics. KPI achieved pretty much means key performance indicator. The university's plan is to have 12 sports win their conference championships within the next 10 years. This slide shows the team's GPA, their win percentage, and where the team placed in the conference. So as you can see on the first slide, The men's track and field team, they finished first in their indoor championship and first in their outdoor championship. So that counts as 2 KPIs. And on the next slide, you'll see the women's basketball team was first in their conference as well. So that would count as 1 KPI.
As we go through this, and Trinity will talk about this at the end of the discussion as well. But obviously, there's a lot that goes into ultimately achieving championship success. It's not just go out and win. There's a lot of factors underneath and the layers below. And so we'll talk about how we're going to really get into depth in terms of the athletic strategic plan related to building programs up and giving them the opportunity to achieve this. Just for the record, this is something the university has never done. We've never been able to have 12 different teams over a 10-year period win conference championships. So I think it's a great measurement and certainly aspirational. So we're excited about it. Next slide, please.
So on this slide here, we're going to be talking about name, image, and likeness.
Okay, can you stop before you go on? This is Amin. I just got a question on the scholarships allocation.
Go ahead, Armin.
Want to answer that? Let's take nice round number rowing. If I'm reading the chart correctly, maximum scholarships by the NCAA say we can give out 20, and we gave out 20, correct?
Correct. We budgeted
Okay.
20. Yep.
Okay, and so that's one of my questions. So we budgeted 20 through the school, correct?
That's correct.
Not the foundation.
Correct.
All right, and
All
it
of
all
our-
comes from the
Yes,
school,
that-
not the foundation at all?
Very important point, Armin. Correct. All of our scholarship dollars are allocated through the university. The only time we use outside foundation scholarship money is for summer school or winter term.
All right, and my second question then is, or third question, is that's obviously in any one season, we cannot exceed 20 scholarships in that particular sport.
20 equivalencies, correct. So like rowing, for example, has a couple kids that may be on full scholarship. A lot of them are on partials. So when we do the calculation, the maximum amount of equivalency is 20 full scholarships given to 40, 50 kids.
Yeah, okay. So you can you can move those around to hit the 20 mark by giving percentages to kids instead of full. So we're not restricted if we want some new talent coming in and we already had 20 on the books, we wouldn't be stuck.
Correct. Very, that's what, as Trinity was saying, and the sort of the breakout of who we are. A lot of our, in that one graph, a lot of our student athletes, more than half, are not getting full scholarships. So most of them are getting some, either an equivalency amount, a specific dollar amount, or a percentage. So yeah, they'll have that opportunity. Coaches can increase that amount. You can't decrease that amount without going through a hearing, but you can actually increase that amount if students come in and get better, earn higher scholarships over their time here at URI.
But let's assume a recruit was coming in any sport that was eligible for an athletic scholarship, but pretty smart student. They're also eligible for an athletic scholarship. Does that count toward the NCAA money, or we don't? That does not count.
Great question. It does count. And so what happens here is the academic money gets filled first, and then the athletic money gets filled second. So you still have to really measure. That's why we work so closely with enrollment services to make sure that we're meeting our percentages properly, because you can't go over. If you go over your equivalency number, it's a violation.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Actually, if
Yeah.
I can, Thor, what are, you don't have women's lacrosse here, but how many scholarships?
They'll be at the NCAA maximum, which is 14. I'll confirm that for you. So, and that'll be over a 4-year period. So Mark was asking, you didn't hear, he's asking, we're adding women's lacrosse starting, they're coming in this year, competition the year after. And the way we built out our pro forma, so that'll be our 19th sport. They'll be fully funded from an athletic perspective. And the way we built it with our coaches that say, okay, they're going to get 8 equivalencies in year 1 and then 2 more in the year after, and et cetera. So that way they can get a class here and get it established, and then add to it as the years go by. So we didn't want to give them the full complement in year 1, because to Armin's point, you want to be able to bring in multiple classes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So here we're going to be talking about name, image, and likeness. So as you know, NIL is a huge deal in the student athlete world today. Um, the University of Rhode Island has invested into Open Doors Marketplace. If you look here at the current stats, 208 athletes, almost 50% have elected to sign up for Open Doors. 27 disclosures this far. The average value of $668, including collectives. And as of this morning, the number is now 241 student athletes have elected to sign up. And also, if you look here at the Launch Lab, student athletes are using internal resources like the Launch Lab to help them gain and innovate entrepreneurship ideas and NIL opportunities.
Great. Next slide, please. The other part of another part of NIL is collectives. A lot of schools have put together collectives. We have a collective as well. It's outside of the university's setting. It's called Road to Excellence. It's focused primarily on men's and women's basketball for now. Again, same exact opportunities, trying to put together NIL opportunities for those programs to be competitive. We actually have we've tried to get a sense of where do we stand within our own competitive landscape with the other A10 schools, and we're right there. Some a little bit higher, some a little bit lower, but we're kind of right in the average in terms of opportunity available. One of the things that is really important, though, and you'll hear me talk more about this, is the new NCAA president, Charlie Baker, the former governor of Massachusetts, really, really well thought of. He's only been on the job for about 120 days. He's working very hard with Congress, and I'm saying this sort of tongue in cheek because members of Congress have said this. You know, you got to be careful when you ask Congress to come in and fix something. You got to really be specific in terms of what you want them to fix. And so I laughed at that. It's like, okay, because it's so confusing and there's so many misunderstandings about what NIL is. And so really, he's working very closely with his folks to get together with members of Congress that are really, engaged and interested in this dynamic. And really, I think at the end of the day, what they're trying to find is transparency. So somehow that student athletes can have to go in, report their NIL opportunities, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Even when we shared information within the A10 about where people stand, you're hearing School X may have $1 million collective. Well, no, they don't. They have a $300,000 collective. That's misleading. It's not only misleading to institutions, but it's misleading to students. So here's the biggest factor, I believe, and something we talk about here a lot. We want to make sure as at URI, but then also Charlie Baker's talking about it a lot. 46% of students that enter the transfer portal across Division I athletics do not find a home. They enter the transfer portal, 46%. And as soon as you go in the portal, your home institution no longer has to provide you with your academic aid. So you've walked away from that, and you have not found a new home to go compete in or get an athletic scholarship for. So that is really challenging. And part of what we think is the case is they're hearing about these huge NIL opportunities at other institutions that may not be real. And so I think that's something that we really need to, as a membership within the NCAA, we really need to focus on, and to that's where we really need Congress's help. There's I think something like 20 state laws now related to NIL. We need one national law that really focuses on transparency as we continue to work our way through it. Next slide, please. Oh, so go ahead, Armin.
Well, this is Armin. Let me ask you a couple of questions about the collective. So there is an NIL collective for the University of Rhode Island focusing right now. Did you say men's and women's basketball?
Correct.
Okay. So you report to us about some of the things of the collective, but is the collective set up almost like the foundation as an independent entity with the sole purpose to deal with the NIL for athletes at the University of Rhode Island?
Very, very separate. It is very separate. For example, I don't even know how much money is in the collective. I have an idea, but I don't know. We, as an institution, as a coaching staff, as an athletic department, cannot direct the collective towards providing NIL opportunities to student athletes in the recruiting process. that would be a violation. So you have to be very careful with any sort of communication like that. What a coach can do is to say to a student we're recruiting, hey, here's some of what our current student athletes have done. You can talk to members of our current team. You can get your information that way. But we really have to be hands off in terms of any sort of inducement to come. And that's where I think some of the schools, when you're hearing rumors about where maybe some people aren't doing things the right way, that's kind of what you hear about. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. And that comes back into that transparency piece.
So how they're going about trying to collect money for that fund, we don't have any say or don't even know what they're doing at this point.
What we can do is we can go out and educate donors and folks to say, we've asked you to consider being part of it. We can't say, please give it to a collective so that Trinity can get X amount of dollars as a student athlete. That would be a violation. You can't assign it to a particular student. But what we can do, what I can do as the athletic director, is go out and talk about the importance of it. I can talk about the need to be competitive, and I can ask people to consider donating to it. But I can't get really into any more detail than that. You really have to be arm's length.
So we can talk to season ticket holders. And
We have to be very careful. We can educate Armin. We can educate them. Yes, we can educate them.
And let them know that there's a separate collective out there.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, I only raise it because, I bump into, obviously I bump into a lot of basketball fans in the circle I travel. Yeah, a lot of them, they know about it, but hasn't been approached.
Yeah, and you have to be careful because we're also trying to raise, we have this other major responsibility of raising money for the department. So we're trying to raise $1.5 million to $2 million a year.
I get that.
Yeah, that's
obviously,
the hard part too.
Doing this collective understands they got to reach out to people, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay, they got to giddy up.
Yep. Well said. You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
A question for you, Thor. This is Bob.
Yeah.
Have we looked into, I'm probably sure that you've done this, but the potential liability and the legal aspect of all of this, where we draw the line? You said you have to be careful. Have we had legal counsel give you some specific directions of what you can and cannot do? Because name, image, and likeness is a big issue that is going to balloon up and hurt a lot of schools in the long run. I just want us to be careful.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That's why within the collective model, it's an outside entity. So we know the rules that the NCAA sort of provides, which are very, very loose right now. Because of all the lawsuits the NCAA has gone through over the last 5 years, they're very, very careful about providing direct information about what you can and can't do, which is also making it an incredible challenge, which is also why we think as an association there needs to be federal legislation as to what truly determines what you can and can't do. There are states out there right now that are saying you can't be punished. Texas has an NIL law now that on the books that says you can't be punished by the NCAA for any NIL violations. I mean, that's crazy. That's a whole state that's operating differently than everybody else. So to answer your question, we work very closely with our conference office. We find out what the rules of the game are. We are really hands off in terms of getting involved, other than the educational piece. Because to Armin's point, we know that if people aren't aware of what this entails, we will definitely find ourselves going backwards, but we're not going to put ourselves or the university at risk because of NIL. We can't do that.
You mentioned the conference. Is the conference giving us guidance, or are they just playing hands off?
No, they give us guidance. So we're getting most of our guidance directly from the conference office.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. These are going to be these topics. NIL is going to be a topic that we're going to be talking about for years to come, and it's going to sort of move and shake a little bit we'll see how it ends up.
It's very complex for sure. Now, and forgive me if I should know this, but the collective, the members, as a volunteer group, do we have anyone from our staff as part of the collective?
We have Casey Light is sort of an ad hoc. She's our associate AD for compliance. So we asked her if she'd be willing to sort of be there to answer any compliance questions. So she's agreed to do that, and she's agreed that with trepidation, because it is, there's a lot of concern about, information and what's allowed and what isn't allowed now. But really what she's been able to do is track information. There hasn't been a lot of questions, because again, I think if any school is doing it right, it's us. We're just following the rules to a T, and that's what we're going to continue to do. But I think other programs out there that for example, I'm sorry to keep wandering, but it's important. There's two different focuses. Like our collectives are for profit. Schools out there are starting to have their own 501c3s. The IRS came out 2 weeks ago and said that collectives are no longer considered a 501c3. So you've got some Big Ten collectives that are now going to sit back and scramble and say they've got millions of dollars in here that were taxed, that were gifts, that the IRS is saying you can't count that as a gift. So now they're going to be scrambling. So the whole world that we're living in is really a little crazy. We have not done that. We've asked the questions, and the interpretations that have been given are that, look, these are for-profit models. These are not for profit.
Yep. Very good.
Go, Steve. Who's doing Harrington School?
Hi.
All right, Steve.
So next slide, please. So in continuing with our athletic initiatives, we are in the second full year of the strategic partnership between athletics and the Harrington School of Communication and Media. So we successfully have streamed over 75 full production broadcasts to ESPN Plus and FlowFootball.com. And this has experienced, a 25% increase from last year's year one partnership. And why is this a big deal? It's a significant investment for the athletic community, but it's a huge point of pride. It allows us to work cooperatively with many amazing individuals within the school, Harrington School of Communication and Media. And as you can see in the slide, there are a few names to note within the slide that have been very valuable within creating and establishing this relationship. But there is still work to do. There have been sports that have not had the opportunity to get covered, and 3 sports included men and women's track, tennis, and the swim and dive team. So the broadcasts are first class, and everyone should have the opportunity to experience. And this initiative is off to a great start, but we hope to continue garnering this relationship and hopefully getting a unanimous experience through all the athletic sports and teams here at the university. So it's been a great opportunity, and we hope to continue to flourish that. Next slide, please.
To add on to what Steve said, URI had rebid their 12-year partnership with Learfield and signing a contract with them, making them exclusive to the multimedia rights holder, making them the exclusive multimedia right holder of URI Athletics. But in this partnership, it included 100% increase in guaranteed dollars and a capital investment, $1 million video board for football and our women's lacrosse team. Important to note that the Harrington School hired a full-time staff member to work the scoreboard, and they're going to use this as an inventory opportunity to sell advertisement. In return, we have the video scoreboard for our teams.
And that extra person that they're going to be bringing on will be running the board, but also helping to enhance the ESPN broadcast to give us more opportunities. Right now, there's one individual doing that. So by having a second one, going back to Stephen's point, we hope to be able to put more contests on that ESPN Plus platform.
Next slide, please.
Wait, can I ask where is it going to be on the field?
It's right behind the scoreboard. I mean, right behind the goalpost that the scoreboard's currently on. So it'll be on the south end.
South end. So it's not going to damage the carpet or the.
No, it's off the field.
It's off the field.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think that will be before the first game of football? Or?
We are hoping that will be before
bets.
the game. I'm glad you asked that question, Mark. The plan is that it'll be before the first game, but as we go through the permitting process, et cetera, or as ANC, the scoreboard manufacturer, goes through the permitting process and the installation process, the jury's always out until the board goes on and the instant replay is working. So that's my hope and plan, and I'll keep everybody posted. Next slide, over here. Go.
Amazing. In continuing with our athletic initiatives, healthcare collaboration is one of great importance and highlight our moving efforts to continue creating a holistic experience for the student athletes here at the university. So we are entering our 5th year collaboration with the Psychological Consultation Center, which is rooted in Chafee Hall. There have been many efforts to create procedures and policies geared towards the health and well-being of student athletes here at the university. And I'm sure as all of you on the board and all of us in this room have heard about the push for health, particularly mental and emotional health for student athletes in this country. Our athletic department has ensured partnerships between the Psychological Consultation Center and Student Health Services as well to provide both physical, mental, emotional, and all-encompassing health and well-being to their student athletes. And resources like this are paramount to continue these initiatives and foster a holistic experience because, you know, we are student athletes. You know, we don't only just do a sport, we also are students. We're also family members. We have friends and other obligations. We work. So, you know, fostering health and well-being here at the university should be of utmost priority because health and well-being runs the foundation of our existence. And just to close out this slide, additional services, we have appointments with a nutritionist specialist working 7 hours a week in the athletic training room on Tuesdays, and we hope to continue garnering this relationship with nutrition as that is also a foundation for athletes' needs throughout the day. And next slide, please.
So our athletic department and student athletes are becoming more diverse in their identities, orientations, and competitive challenges. To add on to what Steve said in terms of mental health, this past year we had a presentation by Miss Ivy Watts, who is a leader in mental health awareness among student athletes. In the presentation, she provided tools for student athletes struggling with the stressors of competition. This past year, we also had the presentation of the MLK plaque. It was a dedication and ceremony. We collaborated with President Mark Palange, and we had 5 student athletes participate in the October 5th, 1966 MLK speech redemption. The 5 student athletes that were there are also a part of MSAC, and MSAC is the Minority Student Athlete Crew. It is an official university recognized student organization. It started in 2020 with 3 core members, but now has representation from 6 sports. And I am the current founder and president of that organization.
Right.
Next slide, please.
So here we're going to be looking at the RICAP construction. So we are really excited. The state has allocated $65.8 million through RICAP. RICAP is an asset protection. There will be no new construction. We'll just be adding to space available, starting with Meade Stadium. And as a football player, I can just say, you know, 3 weeks before like the season, the stands were condemned by the fire marshals. Last year, so the last season, the beginning of last season, the stadium, the stands were condemned by the fire marshals. And I know a few weeks ago, like we couldn't host, you know, the high school, like different high school championships, the Special Olympics, and then like I was saying, as a football player myself, just going to like different away games and stuff like that. I'm looking at other stadiums and stuff, and I just feel like amongst the football team, it's just like, wow, like our stadiums and facilities are kind of far behind to our counterparts and stuff like that. So I feel like at the university, we'll be very excited to have that the new stadium construction happen. And then if you look here at the Slade track and field replacement, it has been 30 years since the schools had an outdoor track, hosted a track event. I know the track team, the women's and men's track team, would be very excited to host an outdoor track event. And then you look here at the baseball improvements. There will be included with press box, stands, turf, and restrooms. And then the softball field improvements will include press box, stands, and turf. And then natatorium repairs will be the pool filter rooms. And then the soccer field improvements will be press box and dugouts. And also as well, the university will be fundraising an additional $16 million to help get that to meet the point for the whole entire $81 million. So,
Can't emphasize enough the gratitude that we have for the president, Armin, for yourself, for Margot Cook, for others that were really integral part of this help, for all of our state leadership, the governor and speaker and the Senate president and folks. This was a really exciting year-long process and one that will be incredibly beneficial to the university for a long time coming. We're also really thrilled about the fundraising opportunity connected with it as well. The RICAP money will be coming to the campus over 3 fiscal years, starting July 1, 2023. Facility Services already has a RFP ready to go out for the initial architectural and engineering work. And then Ellen certainly can talk as much or more about the natatorium repairs, but there's a lot of consultant work that was done prior to that. So they'll be ready to go pretty quickly there. So this is significant, and I can't express, on behalf of all of our student athletes and coaches, can't express my gratitude enough for Mark and also for members of the board, as I mentioned earlier. Armin, huge factor in that. Chair Cook, huge, and then our leadership at the State House. This is really special. And the next 3-4 years, we're going to be going out and raising a ton of money to make sure that we backfill in the required funds to do all of these projects. Our focus will be going with Meade Stadium and the track ASAP. But we're going to have one designer that'll do all of these projects outside of the pool. So that one designer and then one contractor that can do the work.
I just want to mention briefly, as Kanik mentioned, us as former track and field athletes, we were really looking forward to this opportunity to have an updated and new track and field facility, but not only benefiting our track programs for the future, but also for the community as well. Kanik also mentioned the Special Olympics. So we want to have this opportunity to not only benefit as an athletic department, but also show that we support the community in all of their health, celebratory and other ventures that that we should be proud to have. And being a part of the talks and meetings with the State House representatives was a real honor and pleasure, and very excited for the opportunities that this is providing for the facilities and student athletes administration at URI.
Just to add on to what Steve said, I actually had the pleasure of working the Special Olympics that happened here. I was able to work one of the track and field, the days that they had track and field, because I am a track and field nut. So it's a no-brainer. I had to do that. And I was there, and it was honestly quite disturbing, the fact that one of the volunteers, they came up to me and asked, how do they run like a 4x1 on an indoor track? And I don't know if any one of you guys have any knowledge of what a 4x1 is, but it's a relay that incorporates 4 team members, and each of them run 100 meters. The indoor track at Mackle Fieldhouse is 200 meters. If you run outdoor, it's 400 meters. The outdoor track is 400 meters, which means they'll be able to fit 4 people onto the track at the same time, 4 different teams, I guess I should say. But on an indoor track, it's very hard to do that because it's very small. And running a 4x1 on an indoor track is very difficult to do in comparison to having an outdoor track. So like Steve said, I'm too very excited to have a track because it'll benefit not only us, but the community as well. And we won't have to figure out how to run a relay that's supposed to be outside, inside, especially for things like the Special Olympics, which is a big, big event.
Very good. A question around this. Are all these happening at the same time? I see 2024 to 2026. That's the fund.
Yeah, they won't be happening. We'll work. We don't know yet. I wouldn't imagine they'll happen at the same time. I think with one contractor being here, though, they'll be able to say, okay, right now the track, for example, is non-existent. So let's go to work on that one. The football stands, okay, whenever they can get started, let's wait till that particular season's over, and then they can start, and if it's because there's soccer is a fall sport, baseball, softball, spring. So I think having the thought by the facility services folks is by having one contractor here on site, they'll be able to really schedule it out. So it's the most efficient way possible.
Jay, this is Ahmed. Thought the rest of the money, I know you got 80% of the money, but you still got to raise 20%. Can you guys handle that?
We're going to, it's funny, Armin, there's a lot. Yeah, we've got that'll be the Thor Bjorn, Garrett Waller, Mark Carlon show for the next 3 or 4 years, which is fun. And there's a great story to tell. I think we're going to work very close. We actually have a meeting tomorrow with the URI Foundation to start really laying out what we think the gifts should and can look like. The other thing that's important with some of the projects that you'll see, like even on the Soloviev practice facility, we we needed all the cash in hand to do that. Because we're gonna have 3 years of an influx of RICAP money, we'll be able to get a lot of these projects going. And at the same time that we're raising money and collecting pledges on the back end to sort of keep the projects, maybe it's phase 1, phase 2 type of thing. So there's some conversations around that, but I'm excited about that, Armin. I think we take away any sort of question that we've heard for years, and you've probably heard it before me. Bob Wigan, I know you have too. What's the state willing to do? What's the university willing to do? Well, they've stepped up like never before. This has never happened before. So we now get to say, thank you. Now, as our donor base and our alumni base, we need your help to fill that gap and make sure that we're doing everything we need to do. So it's really an exciting story, and it's a great chance for our donors and alums to get behind it. And the fact that we can do this with pledges over time is huge, rather than needing the cash to have in hand now. So when we design, we'll work very closely with the designers, whoever they are, to make sure that we're doing, I'm saying in my mind a phase 1, phase 2, so that we know we need, in my opinion, we move forward with Meade Stadium and the track. Let's go and make some naming opportunities against both of those projects, backfill those dollars, and keep moving forward. So I'm confident, and you know, again, having the president already has said that he's going to be right there with us throughout this process, and so we'll be identifying donors and making asks. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and let me say this: the plan that you had, you and your team, and the job that Mark did up at the State House between the governor's office, the Senate president, and the speaker, as well as many of the trustees on the board of directors. This was a heck of a coordinated campaign. All the field trips that you did opened up eyes to the neglect that was happening at the University of Rhode Island. And with a sitting president now that strongly believes in the academics of the school, as well as how important the athletics are. Yeah, this was a heck of a coordinated campaign, and the State House, they saw that, and that's why they delivered. It was good, and they were proud to do it.
Thank you, Armin. Very, very proud. So the next couple slides will show some photos of this. We're going to move along because I know we're probably past our athletic portion of this time-wise. So if you want to just go, this is the initial design we had for Meade Stadium. Next slide, the track. And then the next slide is the Solovey basketball practice facility. That's on time. It should be delivered in August, which we're incredibly thrilled about. Once we have that in place, I'd love to show folks around. They're doing roof work this week, and then I think we're going to be good to go by mid-August, late August. So on time and on budget. Thrilled about all the work that's gone into that one. Next slide, please. Department of Financials. You know, it was asked of me to show 5-year breakouts of revenues and expenses. So we've done that. Rather than going through that, I'm happy to answer questions, or if anybody has some questions that you want me to answer for the next board meeting, I can do that too. It's one thing that is different starting in FY22. These are FY22 numbers. These are not FY23, because we're providing our audited numbers. We have to get audited every year as an NCAA program. And the one thing that we made sure that we did starting in FY22 and will continue through 23 and on is to make sure that these numbers match our EADA reporting. I'm sorry, I should know what that acronym is. I don't recall off the top of my head. I hate acronyms, and I just created one here. But we do provide, we do have to report an EADA report every year. It's public. And so some of these dollar amounts, et cetera, we have to calculate and account for indirect support from the university as well as direct support. So things like facility services folks, the psychological counseling center, different things that don't fall under our books, we still have to report that as though they are. So that's why the numbers are a little bit off. And I can talk and spend as much time on that with folks down the road if anybody would like to. But if you want to just hit a couple of these slides, we did include our revenue slides. For basketball, you can keep going. But as you go through it, if you have questions, I just don't want to take away from our colleagues at Student Affairs from their time.
Mm-hmm. What I'd say is, if we want to go into more detail about this during our next meeting, the board meeting, perhaps we can do that.
Perfect. We can do that. Maybe Jay, we can with yourself and Tom, I can go through and find out more details of what you'd like specific. So, and we do have one more slide that Trinity will hit on.
So if you guys remember the last slide I talked about regarding KPI, which is the key performance indicators, this slide will be talking about URI strategic plan. These indicators that are listed, coaching, recruiting, facility, support staff, travel, and schedule, they are all part of the plan. These are the indicators. Winning a championship is not easy. It doesn't just happen. It's like raising a child. It takes a village. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to Michelle, equity in athletics disclosure. That's what that report stands for. I would have made something up completely different. So thank you, Michelle.
Thanks. Thank you.
With that, I'd love to, unless there's questions, turn it over to Ellen. Jay, is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Thor, very much. Thank you, students. That was wonderful. So it's my pleasure to be here today and to talk with you a little bit about the Division of Student Affairs and give you an update. I want to begin by introducing actually the Julia Juju Alamir, who was my intern this past semester, who is just an exceptional student here at the university. So let me turn it over to Juju to introduce yourself to the board.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Julia, or everyone calls me Juju on campus. I'm from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and I just graduated with a BS in Human Development and Family Science and a BA in Arabic with a minor in Leadership Studies. And I'm returning in the fall for the College Student Personnel Program, and I will be completing my assistantship with the Student Involvement Office in the union.
And she's highly engaged on campus. She's here this morning. We pulled her away from new student orientation, where she's leading a bunch of new students around campus. So thank you for coming in and being here.
Thank you.
And welcome, Bob and Reva, to the committee. We're glad to have you here with us. So I'm going to try to make up some of the time and go through just quickly a little bit about who the Division of Student Affairs is. And so these are the 9 departments that represent the Division of Student Affairs. It's a large group of individuals who support our student success. We have 430 staff members thereabouts at any point in time. We have 1,200 student employees across the university, and it is across the division, and critically important to us to be able to deliver our services. They're just, you could advance the slide, Lynn, I'm sorry. We couldn't do what we do without our students working in our dining facilities, working in our recreation facilities, and all of the departments that deliver services to our students. We employ 22 graduate students who are actually learning while they're here, similar to Juju and others, but really are instrumental in a pipeline going into the field of student affairs professionals. 250 different student organizations. We have clubs and organizations for everything, and Juju can certainly talk to that, the different type of organizations we have.
Yeah, of course. So I lost my voice. Sorry, orientation. Currently I'm an orientation leader, specifically a team leader. So just to elaborate a little bit on that, I have students, but I also oversee a group of orientation leaders, new orientation leaders, and kind of mentor them through the spring training that we have in the spring semester, and also right now during the summer. I've been a tour guide for about 2.5 years, so love showing families around campus. For 2 years, I was the president of the Middle Eastern Student Association on campus. I'm Syrian. So there was, when I first got here, MESA, Middle Eastern Student Association, wasn't even a thing. And I just felt like there was a lack of representation for people who represent and identify the same way as I do. So we've held a lot of events throughout the past 2 years, and we've got to gain over 200 members. So that was really awesome. I've been the vice president for Rotaract Club, which is a service group on campus, and we do a bunch of community service for the schools off campus as well, and just different groups who may need our assistance with things. I've participated in an alternative spring break trip. We went out to Philadelphia, and we helped the communities that were impacted with COVID at the time. I'm a part of the town development program on campus. I'm a TD scholar, proudly represent. And 2 years ago, I was a resident assistant for them as well. And on top of that, a few other things like URI 101 mentor, Center for Student Leadership Development. And of course, this past semester, I was a student intern for Dr. Reynolds, and it was really awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Do you make time to study, Mike?
I don't even know, but we're here. We made it. We graduated.
Yes, we did.
I left last night and they were just coming into the union for a student dance party
Yeah.
and probably got home after midnight, and here they are this morning bright and
Yeah.
early. So very engaged.
Wonderful.
Just a reference, you know, about 1.9 million square foot of building space we occupy, 45 plus acres of playing fields, and the budget for the division is approximately 110 million. So moving right along, just wanted to let you know that in collaboration with the departments across the division, we came up with a strategic plan, action plan, which supports the university's one plan, the focus plan that was drafted, that was finalized under President Parlange. And a couple of our strategic goals: health and well-being. Obviously, you've heard that mentioned before. That is one of our key tenets to our plan. Strategic goal number 2 was diversity, equity, and inclusion. Strategic priority number 3, partnerships with community development and student success. The reason that much of the work that we do here is so important in our impact, value, and efficiency. And similar to other departments, we're working on our KPIs right now and expect to roll out a full plan this fall to the division. And I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Lori Chico-Muscolo, the student affairs directors, and key staff in the division that worked hard on this to develop this plan to support the focus plan. So next slide, moving right along. So what I'm going to do is, again, 9 departments. I'm going to give a very high overview, highlights of the overview. Each one of these could be their own presentation, but really want to spotlight the successes in each of the areas. And happy to take any questions as we go along. But I'll start with our health services. This is a pieces of their impact statement. But health services, for those who don't know or may be new, is the ambulatory care center here on campus that meet the physical and mental health needs of our students. They did 24,000 visits last year, 21,000 labs or processed, 19,000 prescriptions filled, and the list goes on. Clearly, they're a very busy center that is pivotal to maintaining and supporting our student success. They also oversee URI EMS. We have 90 volunteers. Almost all of them are students, and they responded to 721 calls this past academic year. And that includes on campus, but I will also tell you that they partner with the town of South Kingstown and respond to mutual aid to support the community at large as well. And also, I want to just really highlight the student surveys that we do. So every year we evaluate our students' services and how they felt that they were received. And 95% of the students who responded would recommend URI health services to other students, and 96% felt that the staff treated them with respect, consideration, and dignity. Those are really good metrics. Certainly we work on the ones that weren't satisfied, but what we know is that this center provides a key service to students in their success. I'll move forward quickly and just let you know that they also had an unannounced in the fall accreditation visit. So they are accredited by the Joint Commission, which is the gold standard in healthcare. And this past fall, we had an unannounced survey visit, and they had incredible success. The survey was very well done, and they received their full 3-year accreditation. So moving on. Part of what we do, we believe, is really assessing how our students are doing on many different fronts. So you think about issues that are important to students, right? Health, wellness, sense of belonging, physical activity, stress, mental health. We participated for the first time this spring in the American College Health Association's National College Health Assessment. And so we went out to about 6,000 random students based on a sampling stratified by different class and gender. And we had 703 respondents, or about 11.7% return, which is great. And what we heard was some of the things of how our students are doing. We heard that 60% of URI students reported getting 7 to 9 hours sleep, which was better than the national average at 54%. We heard that 41% of the students felt that stress negatively impacted their academics. I'm going to touch on that in the next slide. So slightly higher than our national average. And I won't go through all of these. This is a very comprehensive survey report, but moving forward, we really honed in on what do students see as the impediments to academic achievement here. And so the blue line is URI students, part of that 700 and respondents, and the yellow line is nationally. And as you can see, unfortunately for URI, we rank a little bit high on all of these areas than the national average. And interesting, we're looking at the cold and respiratory illness because that's about a 10% increase. Not sure if that was the time of year this spring because we had a lot of seasonal allergies and such. So we'll redo this next year and we'll have some comparative data. But interestingly, we are well within the range of where we are nationally, but slightly higher on procrastination, stress, anxiety, chronic illness, equal on depression, and then a little bit higher on sleep. So this gives us the blueprint of how we're going to prepare our health promotion team to go out and do programs on campus, educate students to ensure that they can help manage some of these impediments and how they can be more successful. So it's a great roadmap for us in our programming efforts. Moving right along, you heard Stephen and others speak this morning about, the impact of mental health and wellness on our community. And so what I would say is our counseling center plays a key role in meeting those needs for our students. You can see that they saw over 1,000 students for the academic year, over 6,000 attended appointments. They also had group therapy appointments, highly engaged students, 61% out on campus. That was nice following COVID. They had an opportunity to get back out there and engage with students in other settings. One of our counselors taught a body pump class, so really focused on the importance of physical exercise and how the benefits actually can be with reducing some of those stressors that they might be experiencing. And we had an overwhelming response to that. So with the support of President Parlange and the encouragement, we're going to move forward with our kinesiology department and offer more of that physical exercise and activities to support that along with our kinesiology partners in academic affairs. I will highlight that we continue to have issues with staffing, and that's not unusual. It's a national trend that's being experienced right now. This is hard work. COVID has changed things. More people are wanting to work virtually and they have the ability to do that. So I will tell you that one of the best successes we've had is, and again, it wouldn't have happened without President Parlange's support last August when we knew we were going to need additional support beyond what the counseling center could provide. And that is the MySSP app. We partnered with MySSP, which has 24/7 free and confidential access to mental health professionals to support students. And so we have more than 1,300 download the app or register on the web. This year we're doing it at orientation, so we're getting even more students, and we expect that our students will come armed with their login already and be ready to access those services as needed. You can see that we had 369 clinical cases opened, and 60% of those cases came in between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. So it provides, again, that 24-hour access for students. And what you see there is 72% of the students reporting never had sought mental health support before. 90% of them who were concerned found that the intervention with MySSP really helped them not only stay in school, but be successful. So that's important as we move forward. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about talent development. I'm going to turn it over to Juju, who's going to give you just a little bit about our TD program.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. So for the talent development program, for those of you who might be unfamiliar with it, it's a program that recruits Rhode Island high school students from an underserved, underrepresented population. And you need a 2.5 GPA and 13 core college classes. And for total enrollment, currently we have 1,001 students from last year. And then for first year students, we have about 336.
Next slide, please. And we're on target for this year as well with that, just so you know. We'll be starting our student success program mid-July, where they come in the summer in a college prep 5-week course, and we're right on target with those numbers for new first year.
So we also have 696 students are Pell Grant eligible, including myself, and with 581 of those are females and 420 are males, which is also consistent in the overall demographics of this. Next slide, please. And just for the ethnicity data, we have about, from last year, 50% Hispanic Latino, 30% Black African American, 7% white, 7% Asian, 2 more races is 5%, and then non-specified or American Indian, Alaskan Native is 1% as well. Next slide, please.
82% of our talent development students are identified as first gen or first in their family. And again, they study all different majors.
And for the Dean's List, 375 scholars, or about 38%, made Dean's List. Personally, I was thankfully on Dean's List all 8 semesters, and I couldn't have done it without my TD advisors, so I'm very thankful for them as well. Next slide, please.
One quick question on this program. Do we have a sort of a breakdown of the majors that all these students participate in? Just curious.
Yes, absolutely, Jay. So if you go back a couple of slides, I listed the top 5, but I would say it's similar to athletics. There's no restriction. We have students in every major, mostly, you know, it varies by semester, but it's just impressive that they have the ability to study any major that they want to. Pharmacy, nursing, arts and sciences, cells, health sciences. It's terrific.
Okay.
And I'll just share, I'm doing some work with our alumni office right now because we're trying to look at where our TD alums are landing once they leave. And it's really interesting. We have some really good initial data with a call out. And what we're finding is, you know, around more than 70%, I should say, are ending up in Rhode Island, which is a really great contributor to our workforce, to our state economy. So we're hoping to get a little bit more specific data around that so we can share that as well. Okay, so moving along to Center for Student Leadership.
Yeah, so I work closely with the Center for Student Leadership Development, or the CSLD. In the past, I was an HDF 190 peer leader, which means HDF 190 is just the leadership introduction class for the minor. And the peer leader was just acted as a mentor for all of the first year students who were interested in the class. And also we have a Leadership Institute program with the CSLD. And it's an opportunity for first year students to come in a little earlier than regular move-in for first year students. And you spend about 2 days at a camp off of campus, and you get to work on a bunch of different leadership styles and to meet new people, and really to just be more informed about being inclusive, effective, and ethical leaders in the world today. And 102 first year students participated last year in Leadership Institute. And then the GPA for this year's minor class was 3.53 with the top majors of business, arts and sciences, and health and sciences. And also, as you see on the board, 20% were double majors, 41 have double minors, and 12% have triple minors as well.
So moving right along, we'll talk a little bit about campus recreation, and you can see some impressive numbers there for our Anna Fascitelli Fitness and Wellness Center. That really is the state-of-the-art fitness center here on campus. 111,000 students use this center, offered 2,800 group exercise classes, and just know that many of those classes, if not all, many, most, are taught by students who come into the field are interested in it. It's really great. About 24,000 students participated in group exercise classes, personal training. Here's a number that's impressive. 340 student employees working in campus recreation. We couldn't do it, as I've said many times, without our student employees. And what we really know is that students who have jobs and work on average of about 10 hours really have honed in on their time management skills, do as well or better than their counterparts who don't work. So it's a key part of a student experience. I will also say, and Juju can probably support this, you also get a family. We get a group of individuals who are highly invested in students, who want to see them succeed, and we help students navigate all sorts of things, not only academic, but social and personal issues while they're here with us. And 63 of the rec students graduated this past spring, so that's exciting. I'll hone in on club sports, but we had 611 students participate. 52% of the teams made it to playoffs, which is impressive, 9 championships, and an over 60% win record. And then our intramurals, which also provides an outstanding opportunity. We had 711 teams, but look at that. Almost 20% of our undergraduate student population, 3,000 students, participated in intramurals. It gives them a great way to have not only recreation, but develop friendships and engage in activity across campus. So moving forward, next slide, please. Just back to our club sports a little bit, wanted to highlight of those 611 athletes, the median term GPA was 3.39 and the cumulative GPA median was 3.35. That's impressive. And you can see they're outlined there by team. Let me see if I can tell you. So for the GPA, women's ultimate frisbee, tennis, men's ultimate frisbee, field hockey, and women's soccer were the top GPA sports. And then if we move forward, next slide, please. This also goes on to talk a little bit about the Dean's List. And so looking at this, no, I'm sorry, this is the GPA one, I'm sorry. These are by semester, just move forward. And then here we go. This is Dean's List. So again, all the teams are listed there, but if you look at the slide, what you can see is that we had 390 students out of the 611, or 64% of our club sports athletes who made the Dean's List. So impressive group who are working hard and representing the university in competition. Next slide, please. Yep, and just a couple of highlights. URI sailing team won the Macmillan Cup for the first time in 52 years, which was a huge accomplishment. Certainly the crew club women's novice placed first in the grand finals and are now going to further national championships. And then our collegiate hockey league was recognized as an all-conference rookie team. So some of the accomplishments that they have achieved. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about housing and residential life. So we housed, as of the October 15th deadline, 5,373 students in our 26 different residence halls. 3,485 of those are first-year students. No surprise to anybody that right now, between our first-year students and our rising sophomores, those occupy almost all of the availability that we have on campus. So we continue to need to expand our housing and residential life, and I'll talk about that in a coming slide. We have also wanted to talk just about an improvement that we've made, and that is we know that this generation, Gen Z, right, are natives to technology, really enjoy using technology, and one of the issues was we wanted to improve their ability to chat with our HRL customer service team. So we implemented a new chat feature, and it's been highly successful. We've had 2,200 real-time chats so far, and we're going to go out and survey those students to get feedback on their impression, but we know anecdotally that students really have benefited having instant feedback to questions that they have, access to needs for services, and it also has decreased the human resource capacity because those take a lot of time and human resource, and so this was a way to really streamline and be more efficient, going back to our strategic plan and our goals. Moving forward to, yes, go right ahead.
I appreciate the in-person chat because as an RA this past year, a lot of times we're not in the office or we have classes ourselves, and when residents reach out to us and we're not able to help them, we're able to redirect them to this online chat where they can even like unlock their door for them remotely, which is like a really nice feature as well.
Thank you, Reva, for saying that. Absolutely. We're trying to improve every way we can, meeting the students' needs for sure. So moving forward, I just really want to highlight a couple of important things for our housing program, and that is that we are undergoing a master housing study with our partners Scion and Canon Design. And the goal of this study really is to make sure that we understand and have a plan for the next 15 years as far as our housing needs on campus. It's not only going to look at what our enrollment plans are, but also looking at the facilities that we have, the category of facilities, whether it's a traditional first year suite style or apartment style housing, also the condition of our facilities, and they actually rate them on a national scale. So we'll have a real good idea about what our needs are going to be for the next 15 years in housing. And this is, critically important. Our goal here really is to make sure that we have quality and affordable campus housing that has a variety of different living options for our students, and ensuring that they can be successful, not only from a student development lens, but obviously from their academic standpoint. We did a survey as part of that, working with those partners to 400 plus students, hearing about what their desires would be in housing. And I think it's no surprise to anybody here, what we heard overwhelmingly, greater than 80%, was that students prefer suites and or apartment style living. And it's really what students are growing accustomed to, and it's certainly what we've added when we added Brookside in 2020, and will be what we add when we move forward, hopefully with a new undergraduate residence hall construction. Because in addition to that master housing study, we have recently issued a PO to a partner, Sasaki, who will begin to look at a new undergraduate residence hall construction here on campus. It will likely be 500 beds thereabouts, addition to campus, likely in the current vicinity and facility area where the existing Brookside is. And we know that is essential. Coming in this year, our first year students, some of them are going to need to be tripled because we don't have enough housing to accommodate everybody. And we know that the market will not withstand tripling any longer. There are students who certainly select out of the University of Rhode Island because of that feature. So we're working really hard, and likely we'll be working with a private partnership to be able to deliver that new residence hall as quickly as we can, as affordably as we can for our students, and ensuring that we have that access. And then I also don't want to forget our graduate housing, and just let you know that we are undertaking a renovation project there as well. Growing our graduate population is critically important. Affordable graduate housing in South County is almost non-existent, and we really need to work to make sure that we have as high quality, affordable housing as we can available right here on campus. And so we did a study of the 100 graduate housing houses that we have in Graduate Village, and we'll look to renovate as many as we can, but potentially up to 55 of those in the coming year or two. You can advance the slide. Thank you. Sure.
I have a question. Did we ever try to negotiate for the Holiday Inn at the top of the Tower Road to take that facility over? Do we ever have the dialogue with them, the owners?
Sure. I can tell you that we've had several chances or opportunities to use that space, certainly through COVID. And what we found, Armin, was it was not desirable to students, particularly to undergraduate students. And it really didn't meet the needs for graduate students because it didn't have cooking facilities and the like. Certainly has a restaurant, I believe, down below. But what we found was we didn't have success in renting that out when we had the option to rent it out, when we had to de-densify our space. So I think what we're hearing overwhelmingly, both from grad and undergrad, is the desire to be back on campus, to be close to their research, to those activities that we just talked about. It really is a desire to be here on campus where we can, or as close to campus as possible.
Okay.
So moving forward, just a quick recap of our Dean of Students office. And I had presented previously on Greek life, so I won't go into great detail, but just want to share with you 3,500 members of Greek life, which is nearing 24% of our undergraduate population on campus. They have both some housing components on campus and then chapters as well. So we are routinely and annually recognized by the Northeast Greek Leadership Association, and this year received awards for our civic engagement and public relations. And what I would say to you is that the philanthropic efforts of our Greek are impressive every year, and you'll see the local support that they've given to many different community partners. When I looked at a 5-year review, we are nearing $950,000 in philanthropic efforts by our Greek, and it's really important to our community and a great value that they have. Next slide, please. Also, just want to talk a little bit about our student support and advocacy services. That's a group that really does support 148 students who are some of our students that are really experiencing financial, personal, emotional hardships that really would derail their education if they didn't have support. And they're meeting a critical need to allow students to be successful at the university. Our Rhody Outpost continues, unfortunately, I would say, to have a growth beyond what we can even continue to meet. Right now, we are looking at 70 to 75 visitors per week to our Rhody Outpost. And for those who aren't aware, that's our food pantry. And so that's talking about students who are struggling to afford food. And as you all know, in our visit at a grocery store, the cost of food is impressive right now, and it's really impacting our students. And so we rely on the generous donations of many community members and surrounding community to help support that for us. We recently moved it down this past year to our dining facility so we could have more access. It was previously located on a church on campus. And so Disability Access and Inclusion Office, I just want to highlight these numbers as well. This is our team that really supports students who need accommodation to be academically and socially successful here at the university. They've seen a 75% increase in appointments and a 236% increase in forced accommodations. This is critical to our mission. Not only is it federally required that we provide these services, but it's essential for students to be successful. And what I would also say is the demographic of students needing accommodations has really changed. There's many more seeking accommodations for mental health support versus the traditional learning disability that you may be familiar with historically. So that team's working incredibly hard to support our students in ensuring that they have an equitable and inclusive campus. And then again, due to time, just want to run through dining is continuing to meet the needs of our students, both in their I'd say all you can eat dining facilities, as well as many different facilities across campus, whether it be the Brookside Bistro, which is one of our newest, the Daily Grind in the library, the engineering building, Gertz Cafe. We have lots of different opportunities where we're supporting students' needs, and they are incredibly busy. I will also tell you that the service industry is another area that horrifically struggled with staffing this past year. They are working really hard to do everything we can to recruit individuals to come work at the university. But so isn't everybody else in this area. So we continue to, even though we have such great benefits at the university, it's still hard to recruit employees to come work and fill all of those spots that we have. We are also working based on feedback that we received to increase, you can advance, thank you, to increase our late hour offerings. We've heard loudly from our students that they would like to have more late offerings, and we are working really hard for that. We also did a survey. We are engaging in a study to redesign our Ram's Den, which is located in our Student Memorial Union. And so we heard loudly we'd like to have a food court atmosphere there. So we're looking at how we might be able to partner with franchise to be able to offer a more robust offerings for our students in our Ram's Den. And then finally, I'll end just with the Memorial Union and say that I am really excited about this new partnership. We have hired a new employee, I will also say a URI alum of our college student personnel program, who is going to work with us on Anthology Engage. So I talked about the 250 plus student organizations, and what we know is there's some really good data there to support how important it is for a sense of belonging, for student success. And so we are going to be working to implement this Engage platform that will really provide long-term goals and support for students who are engaged in our organizations. We also hope, we have a goal to be able to provide co-curricular transcripts for students. You heard from all of these students and how engaged they are, and it's critically important that we hopefully be able to provide them a co-curricular transcript that they can use as they move on into their profession and highlight all of the ways that they've been engaged on campus. And I believe that's it. You can move forward, Lynn. Thank you. Julia and I are happy to take any questions that you might have.
Members, do you have any questions?
I had one question in terms of like the counseling center. You talked about how they were struggling with staffing. So how many current staff members are within the counseling center right now then?
Oh, Reva, that's a great question. I want to say approximately 11. We have one vacant position currently that we're still working to fill. We had earlier this summer had the success in filling a case management psychologist position, so that could help us with making sure that our students had access to services in the community if they need longer term services. But we also have several staff that are out on long-term illness, so it continues to be a struggle to recruit and fill all of our positions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good. All right, very good. Well, thank you so much. So, so Steve, Trinity, Kanique, Juju, you guys did a phenomenal job. You made this a lot more interesting. It's all the stuff is so great to hear. I'm sure that you guys saw how much we have to pack up and do. So it's all basically done for you as students. So I hope that you still are interested in the AD position. And Juju, thank you so much for all of the information that you shared. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot that's already underway, and we have still a lot more to do. So thanks again, everyone, for coming in this morning. We do have 2 action items that we have to finish up today, and if there are no questions for the team, I'd like to get on with those, if that's okay.
Yep.
All right, very good. So the next 2 action items that we have are the review of the amendments to the Student Life and Athletics Committee Charter and recommendations to the URI Board of Trustees. Within enclosure 3A, we do have the changes that were made during the last April committee meeting. We asked for changes, but it doesn't appear that any further changes suggested. So with that, may I please have a motion that the Student Life and Athletics Committee of the URI Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve amendments to the committee charter as recommended and presented in enclosure 3A.
This is Armin, so moved.
Is there a second?
By Bob Wigan.
Very good. Thank you very much. Hearing any discussions of the motion? Hearing no discussion. For a voice vote, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All right. Any opposed, abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. The next action item that we have is a review of the amendments to the Student Life and Athletics Committee calendar and recommendations to the Board of Trustees. So these changes, actually, we didn't have many changes. These are in enclosure 3B. And with that, may I please have a motion that the Student Life and Athletics Committee of the URI Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve amendments to the committee calendar as recommended and presented in enclosure 3B. May I have a motion? Thanks, Armin. Second?
Wigan, second.
Very good. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, hearing no opposition, the motion passes. And then
That the chair should also be voting when you call for a vote, so you should be saying yes also, just for the record.
okay. All those in favor, please say yes. Yes.
There you go.
Thanks, Alyssa. She's always paying attention. I like that. See, guys, the lawyers are listening. All right, the next item on the agenda is to adjourn. So may I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Bob Wigan.
Okay. This
All
is
right,
Armin.
second. All those in favor, please say yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right, so it is 10:26 and our year-end performance, we got it all done in time. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Students,
Thank
thank
you.